The Los Angeles Dodgers just signed Shohei Ohtani to a massive 10-year, $700 million contract that has shattered records across all sports across the entire globe. No soccer player, football, basketball, baseball player has ever signed for more money than Ohtani did this offseason. The one small issue with this is it added a 40-man roster spot, and now the Dodgers currently sit at 41 people on their 40-man roster. And with the signing of Joe Kelly, they now sit at 42, and they only have a certain amount of time to make their adjustments to get back down to 40, so the clock has been ticking for the Dodgers ever since they signed both these players. In come the Yankees, who, after making the Juan Soto trade, have ample space on their 40-man roster because almost every prospect that they traded away was already on their 40-man, so the Padres end up getting a lot of talent up near the major leagues, leaving a big space for the Yankees to fill on their 40-man. You can see the breakdown here on the screen, Yankees on the left, Dodgers on the right, courtesy of Fangraphs, and it makes perfect sense why this was a fit. 5 open spots on a 40-man roster is a lot, and the Yankees are looking to contend this year. The Dodgers have a glutton of players on their 40-man, and there's a reason why they decided to trade instead of DFAing. The talent on the Dodgers 40-man is immense. The Dodgers always have a stacked farm system, and everyone who's currently at the upper echelon on that 40-man roster is talented and has value, so might as well go and get something for it. The Yankees are going to be able to take that talent and apply it straight to their major league roster as they try and win a championship, potentially even against the Dodgers in 2024. Given the circumstances, it makes perfect sense why the teams pulled a deal on Monday morning, sending former first-round pick Trey Sweeney from the Yankees to the Dodgers in exchange for left-handed reliever Victor Gonzalez and prospect Jorbit Vivas, who both are on the Dodgers 40-man roster and are now translating to the Yankees 40-man roster. In this video, we're going to break down this trade and how it fits into the grander scheme of both the Yankees and the Dodgers' future plans with the Ohtani signing, with the Soto trade. There's a lot of moving pieces on both organizations, so looking at exactly how a trade like this will impact both teams is going to be really interesting to look at. Before we get started, it'd mean a lot if you could subscribe to the channel. You can do that by hitting that baseball in the bottom right corner or hitting the link in the description below. It would mean a lot. You get more baseball content, not only from me, but from awesome baseball creators out there as well. Without further ado, let's go ahead and look at this trade from the Yankees and Dodgers perspectives and see exactly how this is going to impact the future of both teams. Looking at this from the Dodgers perspective, getting a former first-round pick is almost always a good thing, especially because it's only come 2.5 seasons after he was a first-round pick. It's not like they got someone who's 30, never really made it. Trey Sweeney is only 23 years old and has a lot of potential to be a solid player at the major league level. The lefty has played shortstop all throughout his minor league career and when he played at Eastern Illinois, so that's where he'll most likely at least start the year, but if something happens to Mookie Betts and he ends up being rushed up to the major leagues, I would not be shocked to see him end up at second base and maybe even long-term end up as a third baseman who can kind of spot start shortstop if necessarily needed. That being said, I don't think he is the long-term answer at shortstop that they could be looking for if maybe a Gavin Lux gets traded, but there's still some potential that he could fill in on an off day at shortstop if needed. He's sneaky athletic, but he's not the white wide receiver sneaky athletic. He has some decent range, he has an above average arm, good fielding, but it doesn't translate to be an above average defensive shortstop, and with the Dodgers having such a lush system in terms of prospects, I just don't see him sticking at shortstop long term. In 2023, he made the jump to AA, and you can ask any prospect evaluator, the jump from high A or single A to AA is the hardest in all the minor leagues, and his numbers actually improved. His average was up a little bit, his on-base percentage up by almost .02, and although his slugging was about the same, he was putting together a decent year. His stolen bases had gone down. He stole 31 the year before and only 20 in 2023, so that was going down a little bit, but he has enough speed to maybe steal 10-15 bags in the major leagues, which could make a difference in a game. He's not someone I'd love to throw in as a pinch runner. He has about average, maybe above average speed on the base pass, but it's not someone that if it's the 8th inning and I need someone to steal second base and he's on my bench, he's not the person I'm immediately looking at to go in as a pinch runner. Trey Sweeney is an okay hitter. I see him maybe as a 275 kind of guy, but he has really good plate discipline. 65 walks and only 90 strikeouts and almost 400 at-bats in 2023. So he has a good eye for the ball. He doesn't swing at a lot of pitches. He is a good prospect in that regard, and that's someone that any team can use. A nice contact guy, a guy who can, get on base at a higher clip than he can just hit the ball. So he's someone who's a little bit of a money ball guy and has a little bit of potential in that regard as well. He'll be an average hitter, 275. Probably his max, and he hits it for okay power. He hit 16 home runs in 2022, 13 in 2023. So I'll see that probably about the same number, maybe 15, 20 on a good year in the major leagues should he have a sustained career. So there's some potential there, but I wouldn't be jumping out of the page to say this guy is a big power threat. He's not going to hit you a game-winning home run if you're really relying him to do so. What's really interesting is there's so many more rumors floating around about what the Dodgers can really do. Maybe they want Tyler Glasnow. There's so many other big pitchers like Dylan Cease who could be in the mix of what they want because their rotation is very young right now. They could use some experience there. I think Trey Sweeney fits the role of someone who could be flipped, a la what you see with the Braves this offseason. He needs to be added to the 40-man roster before the Rule 5 draft next year, and with the Dodgers having such a glutton of minor league talent, they have one of the best minor league systems in all of baseball. I would be shocked to see him get flipped for another piece, such as a Dylan Cease or a Tyler Glasnow, simply because they're not going to have space for him next year, and they'd rather not leave him unprotected on the 40-man roster. Considering that players like River Ryan and Justin Robreski are probably going to push for 40-man spots as well, and maybe you have someone like Dalton Rushing, who isn't Rule 5 eligible for a little bit, also vying for a spot this year, there's a lot of potential for him to be traded at another deal simply because there's not room for him in a crowded Dodgers organization, but they needed that 40-man flexibility now, and the rest is a later problem. In this deal, the Dodgers gave up one of their top 10 prospects in Jorbit Vivas. Vivas signed with the Dodgers back in 2017 in the July international signing period for $300,000 out of Venezuela. He was added to the 40-man roster before the 2022 season by the Dodgers, and he has not made his major league debut yet, which means he's used up 2 of his options already. He'll be able to be sent down to the minor leagues in 2024, but after that, he's out of options and has to stay on the 26-man roster in order to continue to be on the 40-man roster. So that is what the Yankees are dealing with in terms of Vivas' service time. Oftentimes, you'll see his comparison being a poor man's Luis Arias, as he has really good hit tool, not a ton of power, and he's basically limited to second base. At 5'10", 171, he probably won't play any first base like Arias is, but those comparisons mostly go just to his plate discipline and his ability to make contact with the ball. He has a very short, fast swing that helps him make a lot of contact in the zone, but doesn't attribute to a ton of power. Those very impressive bat-to-ball skills are what really is his only main calling card. Defensively, he's pretty limited to just second base, as I've already mentioned, and that can really hinder just how well he can perform in the future. His lack of defensive versatility basically means he's really only available if Gleyber Torres needs a day off, or if Giancarlo Stanton gets hurt and they need someone to fill in as a DH. That can seriously hurt his value, especially on a contending team like the Yankees. Not only that, I've already mentioned that after the 2024 season, he needs to be on the 26-man roster or he's going to be DFA'd. I think Vivas has a very similar fate as to what Trey Sweeney is, and that's future trade bait. I think both teams wanted to get their players a fresh start, see what they had, and then ship them out at the deadline. The Yankees need pitching as well, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them maybe use Vivas in a trade for a reliever to a team that's not looking to contend this year. Vivas doesn't have a place long-term in the Yankees lineup, in my opinion, simply because of his lack of defensive versatility and the fact that they're the Yankees. They have a lot of money to spend. They're ready to go all in with this Juan Soto deal, so who knows where they're going to end up in the future, but we know they're going to be adding pieces. There's not a ton of middle infield depth in the Yankees system, especially near the top who are about to graduate, but I just don't see Vivas being part of their long-term solution. He might be, I could be completely wrong, but I think this is more of just a process trade where both teams now have guys who they like, they can try and reform and potentially ship out at the deadline. A great way to look at it is teams like the A's or the Royals or other contending teams will get more prospects at a discount when they're needing to be out of the 40-man roster next year or don't have a lot of options left. So these are players that oftentimes these teams target. They can get more value simply because their value is depreciated because they're out of options or the home team doesn't have a ton of 40-man space. So these are guys that they can keep on their roster because they're not good and they have the space to do it. The final player involved in this deal is Victor Gonzalez, a relief pitcher who used to be a highly touted prospect in the Dodgers system back in 2015, 2016, kind of fell off and made a resurgence in the 2020 season where he was a big part of their championship success. He put together a really great campaign across 15 games, putting up a 1.33 ERA, and his peripherals were great too. A 1.67 FIP, a 2.02 xERA, a 2.21 SIERA, and he had a very impressive ground ball rate of 69.2%, which means there were not a lot of fly balls hit, and he was doing a really good job of keeping the ball on the ground. He was a big part, again, of that Dodgers success in 2022 and why they won the World Series over the Rays, but things started to shift a little bit in 2021. He was out for all of 2022 and then now in 2023. He's regressed a little bit toward the mean since his 2020 campaign, but that doesn't mean he's a bad reliever at all. His ground ball rate did drop by 15%, but for the most part, that's almost all been translated into line drives, not fly balls, so he's still doing a good job of not allowing a ton of home runs. Granted, it's still a little bit higher than what you'd like to see, 8.7% in 2023 of fly balls were hit as home runs, but it's not the end of the world. He's also making a decent amount of soft contact. About 20% of all hits are soft contact, which is really good for a reliever. He's a sinker ball pitcher. There's nothing crazy about that. Over 60% of all the pitches he throws are sinker balls. So when you think of Wandy, Yankees fans, this is someone you're probably going to think of. He's a lefty sinker baller. They fit the same mold. And that's not to say they won't bring him back, but it kind of feels like the writing on the wall is there for Wandy Peralta not to come back as a Yankee. He might be, you never know, but Peralta's older. Gonzales is only going to be 28 this year. He still has a minor league option. He has 4 more years of control post-arbitration. This just feels like a match made in heaven for the Yankees to have a lefty reliever in their bullpen who is effective and who they want to try and work out and get the best out of in the future. To give this trade a grade, I think the Yankees easily get a B-. This is not a trade that I love. I think giving up on Trey Sweeney is not something I personally would have done if I was the Yankees, even if you didn't think it would fit into your long-term plans. But Jorbit Vivas, I also don't think fits in your long-term plans. But Victor Gonzalez is at least solid. He's someone you can add to your bullpen. The Yankees needed that bullpen help. I'm okay with this deal. It's not something that's going to bring the world down. I'm really hoping that they can take Vivas and flip him to someone else simply because I just don't think he fits into anything that they have going for them. He's not a second baseman that's going to stay there for a long time. I think Gleyber Torres is going to stay a Yankee for a little bit. And if something does happen, I think Vivas's floor is probably as a bench player. His ceiling's probably as a middle-of-the-road second baseman. That's not something you necessarily want going into a championship caliber team. So I just don't see him fitting in exactly what the Yankees want to do in the long term. I hope I'm wrong. I think Vivas has the potential to be a good player, but it's just not someone that I would be banking on if I was the Yankees. Victor Gonzalez put a lot of things together in 2020, but now it's going to be 4 years ago. We'll see how he can respond. Again, he's not a bad reliever by any means, but he's not a strikeout guy. He's kind of a 1-2 pitch kind of guy simply because that sinker ball is thrown so often, over 60% of the time. I think he fits a role that the Yankees need as a left-handed reliever, but beyond that, I just don't love this trade. It seems like it works. The Yankees got something that they wanted. They fill up 2 40-man spots because they have the space. It worked out. It's nothing to write home about, but it's kind of just whatever for the Yankees in my opinion. I don't think this makes them any better, but I also don't think it makes them any worse. Ironically, I'm going to say the same thing about the Dodgers. I think Trey Sweeney is a good player, former first-round pick, some potential. He's not going to be a breakout guy, but is he really someone who's going to stay on the Dodgers long-term? I don't think so. This is just a procedural move. What am I really supposed to say, that Trey Sweeney is going to be the next Dodgers star? I don't think that's going to happen. I think Yankee fans were a little disappointed to lose him, but it's nothing to be super beat up about. He probably wasn't going to be protected by the Yankees in the 40-man roster next year. I don't think the Dodgers are going to do it, which is why I think he gets traded somewhere else. We'll see how things play out, but I think Sweeney is great trade bait, and because he's a former first-round pick, he gets a little bit of pedigree in that regard, just around the industry. He's someone that has some potential to be a good player long-term. We'll see exactly how that plays out, but I think that bodes well for the benefit of the Dodgers. If given the option between Vivas and Sweeney, I'd probably take Sweeney, but I think the addition of Victor Gonzalez kind of evened things out a little bit, simply because the Yankees needed that bullpen help. Dodgers have a bit of a better bullpen, so I'm not hating this for them, but they do need some starting pitching, and I would really like if maybe the player that they got back was a starter. They could flip around because they have so much starting pitching depth. Maybe they could have someone who was in rookie ball who they can kind of go and develop that way. That's just my 2 cents of what I would have liked, in my opinion, but this is what they got, and I think it works out for both teams. So thank you again for watching this video. It really means a lot. If you're a Yankee or Dodgers fan, I hope this trade works out in your favor. And if you're interested, there's 2 more videos up here in the top left and the top right for you to watch. And you can hit that baseball right there in the center, or hit the link in the description to subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next video.